Hey everyone, this is Nick, and if the setup and the audio and the image is a bit different, it's because I'm in an Airbnb in Paris, so yeah, conditions aren't ideal. But it doesn't mean that you can't get your Linux and open source news video. This week we have Nextcloud releasing Nextcloud Hub 3, which might finally be the ideal replacement for Google services or Apple's iCloud. We have a big source code leak for Intel, and we have Ubuntu making their Ubuntu Pro subscription free for up to 5 devices to get 10 years of support for basically every Ubuntu package. So let's dive in right after I tell you everything about today's sponsor.
Thanks to Linode for sponsoring this video. Linode is my favorite solution to run a Linux or gaming server. It's what I use to run my own Nextcloud instance and my own OnlyOffice server. The interface is super easy to use, they are affordable, they have tons of documentation online, and they have one-click deployable servers for a ton of applications or games, like Grav, for example. Grav is an open-source content management system, or CMS. You can use it through a graphical admin panel or through the command line. Page templates can be written in Markdown, and it uses the Twig engine. And you can deploy it in one click on Linode and start building a website. And to get you started, Linode is giving you $100 of free credit to get your own Linux server or gaming server running. To get access to that, just click the link in the description below. Okay, so it's not exactly from this week, but I missed it last time. Nextcloud released Nextcloud Hub 3, the latest version of their cloud software that lets you basically replace most of Google's services or Apple's iCloud. While it was already pretty complete, it was still lagging behind in a few key areas, and these issues are now fixed. First, they refreshed the design to look more modern, with a bit more roundness, a bit of background transparency and blur, and dark mode support, which all looks much better than the previous iteration. Second, the Photos app on Nextcloud was pretty bare bones, and they now fixed that as well. They introduced a new tile view that performs better and looks a lot nicer to use to look at your pictures. You can also now create albums instead of managing photos by folders, and these albums can be shared with others through public link, so they can add their own photos to it. There's also a new photo uploader and a new photo editor that lets you add filters, crop, resize, and more. And on top of that, they added on-premises face and object recognition that lets you detect people and various elements that you can then search for using the global search in your Nextcloud instance. All is done on server and isn't shared with anyone. They also much improved Nextcloud Talk with rich cards for links, working hours, message expiration, document uploads, polls, and more. And the Mail app is now much better with calendar invite replies, quick actions, or integrated attachment viewers. And they also improved the performance, sometimes up to 90%. And they refreshed the mobile app as well to support the dashboard and its widgets, a new image gallery view, unified search, and more. So, previously you could already replace Google services or Apple's iCloud with Nextcloud, but with this new version they're really caught up in terms of features, ease of use, and performance, which means it's definitely now ready to be used by anyone to replace all these privacy-invasive services. And they're also working on their Office suite called Nextcloud Office, which is basically just Collabora Online, but a lot easier to install without 2 servers to handle, a URL to parse. They're just going to make it like plug and play. You install Nextcloud, you automatically get Nextcloud Office, and you have nothing to configure. So expect a dedicated video on Nextcloud Hub 3 soon, because yeah, it's what I use and it's really awesome. If you use Ubuntu but you don't want to constantly update your distro to the latest release, you might be interested in Ubuntu Pro, which is now free for personal use up to 5 devices. Ubuntu Pro gives your Ubuntu devices 10 years of security coverage to 23,000 packages from the Ubuntu repos, including big ones like Apache, Docker, Drupal, Node.js, Python 2, Redis, WordPress, and more. It sort of adds LTS support to the Ubuntu Universe repo, but for 10 years instead of 5 for normal LTSs, with coverage for 0-day vulnerabilities and critical, high, and some medium common vulnerabilities and exposures. The service already existed for paid customers, but now anyone can get access to it by registering on their website with up to 5 machines, or 50 if you're an Ubuntu community member. It supports Ubuntu 16.04 LTS and all more recent versions published since, as long as they're LTS releases. It's mostly useful for servers, but desktops can also benefit from it. If you don't want to move to 22.04 from 20.04, for example, but you would still like your desktops to be as secure as possible, it might be a pretty good choice. I guess Ubuntu expects to get traction from this service with individual users, seeing as they also now push it through the terminal when you're using apt through the command line. And they hope that these users will then probably incite their companies to subscribe to that service for more devices and to make money. I don't know how successful that would be, but I think it's a pretty good service. Like, if you want 10 years of support for free, why not do it? Especially if you want to ensure that your mom will not call you every day after you replaced her Windows 8 with some kind of Ubuntu on her PC. The source code for Intel's Alder Lake BIOS has been leaked on 4chan by an unknown hacker, and it now has found its way on GitHub as well. It amounts to 5.8 gigabytes of data, and the leak has been confirmed by Intel as well. What this contains is files and tools that are meant to build a BIOS or UEFI interface for Intel's Alder Lake platform, so Intel's 12th gen CPUs and chipsets. While this might seem like a non-event, it's actually pretty big, because these files can now be analyzed by any ill-intentioned person to try and find vulnerabilities to exploit on the huge number of devices that are out there using these chips. It also means that the security community can take a look at them and inform Intel of stuff they might want to patch. Although, since it's involuntary open sourcing, no one will actually be able to fix the issues themselves and distribute updates on their own, so Intel has to accept the disclosures and they have to accept to fix them. It also exposes the code related to Intel's TPM, which might make this security feature useless if certain malicious actors were to find vulnerabilities in there. And what's more, it might also be an issue for open BIOS initiatives, which should not look at the code or be associated with it, just in case Intel decided to sue them for copying some of their stuff, even by mistake. It's basically radioactive code at this point. Like any open source project that works with Intel's chipsets to write, for example, coreboot, should never even acknowledge that these leaks existed or that they know about them. Just like the Windows source code of a few years before for the Wine community. Open source is awesome when it's voluntary, but these kind of hacks and leaks are always an issue for everyone. KDE Plasma 5.26 was released this week, and I have a dedicated video about it. In case you missed it, I'll link it in the card up top and in the description. If you want the TLDR, this release is more a polish and bug fixes one, especially focused on Plasma widgets. These are now resizable and able to remember their size, and a lot of them have received improvements for keyboard navigation, accessibility for screen readers, and more features across the board, especially more customization options for Kickoff, the application launcher. Plasma Big Screen, the Plasma interface for TVs, also now has its first official release, provided you have an ARM device like a Raspberry Pi 4 or equivalent to install it on. It supports navigation with your TV remote, it can play local files, it can browse the web, and you can control it with your voice, thanks to Mycroft's skills. The regular Plasma desktop also now supports dual wallpapers with light and dark images. It supports animated wallpapers out of the box. You can adjust the warmth of the colors for the day and for the night with the improved night color feature, and you have tons and tons of bug fixes that should make the experience a lot better. And yeah, sure, it's not a mind-blowing release in terms of features, but the amount of polish and quality of life improvements make it a no-brainer. If your distro offers it, install it. And if you want to try out some FOSS stuff on your TV, or if you have no smart TV but a dumb TV, well, Plasma Big Screen can be a first interesting project. GNOME developers also got to work on their apps and libraries, with the OpenQA initiative now passing all their tests, which should be useful to ensure less bugs and better quality control. In terms of apps, Secrets, the password manager using the KeePass format, has a new update with support for the trash. checking for file conflicts, and redesigned custom password entries. PK Backup now has better support for excluding directories you don't want to backup. Playhouse is a new app that lets you prototype and learn how to develop web apps with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Tagger, the music tagging software, got some UI tweaks to be more user-friendly, and Zap is a new application that lets you create your soundboards to use in your streams and videos. Gradients, the libadwaita theming tool, got some UI polish, better support for presets to quickly change the colors of your applications, it fixed Flatpak theming, and it now follows GNOME's guidelines. Flare, the Signal client, got contact search, it lets you show notifications, and it got some UI improvements. And Eyedropper, the color picker, now has a palette dialog, suggesting color schemes based on the color you picked. GNOME has really managed to create a super vibrant and dynamic app ecosystem since basically GNOME 40, I'd say. And it's super amazing each week to see all these apps get better, some new ones get introduced, they all look coherent. It's exactly what I was expecting from a Linux ecosystem, and I love it. There's an interesting blog post from Endless, makers of Endless OS, a distro aimed at the education market, about how they helped influence some of the new UI elements in GNOME 43. It looks like they were the instigators of the pagination arrows in the apps grid, after numerous user reports telling them that it wasn't clear you could navigate to multiple pages, or at least how to get to these other pages if you were not using a touchpad. They also contributed 43% of the code changes in GNOME Software 43, notably the threading rework that is still ongoing and performance improvements, as well as everything related to web apps. Endless also helped port the initial setup of GNOME to GTK4. They are now more integrated in the GNOME design discussion process thanks to Cassidy James Blade of Elementary OS fame, who joined Endless this year, and he's been involved in various design discussions, including the new quick settings. Why am I telling you this? Because it's always super interesting to me to just look at how companies and various actors and distros can interact with their downstream, influence design, influence decisions, and help code the things that they actually want to have. Like, sure, the open source design, development, discussion process can be weird, it can be kinda hateful sometimes and really mean on people, but sometimes it's also kinda beautiful, and I just wanted to showcase that here. And let's finish this video with some gaming news. First, we have the Steam Deck docking station, which is currently at number 5 of the global top sellers on Steam, which means it must be pretty high on the list of people who own a Steam Deck, as that list also includes giant games like FIFA 23 or CSGO, or it even includes the Steam Deck itself at number 1 position. I personally ordered a Steam Deck dock as well, just because I can't seem to find a device that would serve as a non-portable Steam console for the same price and with the same performance. And we also have an interesting way to make the Steam Deck display a lot more vibrant, thanks to Decky Loader, a plugin manager for the Steam Deck that lets you expand your experience and the UI. Among these plugins is Vibrant Deck, a plugin that changes the color profile, the color saturation, and the gamma for each RGB color to make the colors pop a lot more. And I must say, I tried it and it looks pretty awesome. So yeah, you should definitely use it as well. And I will probably lose myself in trying to customize the Steam Deck with various plugins before I realize I just prefer the vanilla experience. Just like when I use KDE basically. I rice it to all hell and then after 10 days I go back to the default vanilla layout and theme. And I also go back to this segue to today's sponsor. Tuxedo is a company based in Germany, and they make laptops and desktops that ship with Linux out of the box. And if you're wondering what are the advantages of buying a device that is already shipping with Linux, well, it basically removes all the guesswork and the elbow grease and the research process that you might have when you try to buy a generic laptop or desktop off the internet. You don't need to guess if stuff is working correctly or not. Everything that is shipped on the laptop is working out of the box with the system shipped or with basically any distro that you might want to install. And they have a huge range of devices, from the smallest ultrabooks to the biggest gaming laptops or gaming stations, workstations, whatever you want. They have it for all price points and all performance. And most devices are actually very customizable with tons of CPU options, GPU options, RAM, SSD, your logo on the back. Whatever you want to add, it's there. So if you need a new device and you're tired of buying something and realizing that stuff is not exactly working like you want, check the link in the description below and get yourself a Tuxedo laptop or desktop. They work and they're really, really good. So, thanks everyone for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't hesitate to like, to subscribe, to turn on notifications, or to write a comment. And if you really enjoy what I'm doing and you want to support the channel, there's a super thanks button underneath the video, there's a PayPal link in the description, or there are links to my Patreon page or my YouTube memberships. Both get access to a weekly podcast on Monday where I talk about Linux, tech, open source, the channel, my personal life. Pretty interesting stuff, in my opinion. And you also get to vote on the next topics that I'll cover for the month that comes after. So if you're interested, all the links are in the description. In the meantime, thank you guys for watching, and I guess you'll see me in the next one. Bye!